From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant. It is presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Coming up on today's show, leftover thoughts from ACC Kickoff, some other stuff going on in the college football universe that we'll talk about, as well as Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. But we are presented to you by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com is the website, and we're so glad you all are here. And by saying we, Corey's back, everybody. Let's go! It's camp week. Corey's back. Let's go!
Things are looking up. Corey Clark is back. You don't have to suffer through Ira and Tom anymore. Corey Clark is back. The old reliable who missed a week right before camp started. But I'm here. I'm back. Feeling pretty good, buddy.
Okay, pretty good. Back to normal-ish, or are we still battling? You just want to be brave?
No, I mean, as we record this on a Sunday night, I just walked the longest I've walked. I did about 5,000 steps. So I think that's, I don't know what that is, a mile and a half, 2 miles, I don't know. But it was the longest I've walked since it happened on Monday. I'm starting to eat normal. Now, when I eat, I might have to go to the bathroom quickly thereafter. Look, we're all friends here. I can divulge that stuff. It's one of the symptoms. It's one of the, one of the byproducts of getting your gallbladder taken out. But overall, I have felt good. I'm having a hard time sleeping. And it's not because I'm in pain, Aslan. And also, I haven't taken a pain pill since Tuesday night.
My man.
Strong. So I'm saving them up for New Year's. But yeah, so I haven't been in excruciating pain or really even terrible pain at all. It's just I have a real hard time like getting comfortable sleeping because you're supposed to sleep on your back or on your left side, and I have a hard time doing that. And I keep switching back to my right side and then my left side, and it's just tough, man. But other than that, I've been doing. I felt pretty good.
All right, man. We're glad you're back.
Me too.
We're glad that all of you stuck around with us through this long off season. I mean, we don't even go to bowl games anymore, so the off seasons are really long. But
right. Florida
State will open up camp on Wednesday, preseason camp. That is on Tuesday, though. Mike Norvell will host the local media to a preseason luncheon. We'll get to speak to him and all of his coaches, maybe even some support staff folks. So be on the lookout for all that information dropping on Tuesday. And I think there still somehow will be headlines. I don't know how they were going to do it, but you guys are somehow still going to do headlines. So shout out to you guys. We made it. We made it, everybody. I can't wait. This is awesome. They're going to win football games, lots of them hopefully. And we're going to do so many cool things this upcoming season. Pre-game shows, post-game shows, maybe even something during the game. I can't divulge it all. But also before we get going with the show, check out recruiting news over at warchant.com, Premium Recruiting Board. Keyshawn Mashburn, 2024 defensive tackle out of Quincy, I think. Defensive tackle, 3-star, committed to Florida State. So the reaction to that, the breakdown, what it means over on warchant.com. So go check that out. Corey, we didn't get to hear from you the last several days from ACC Kickoff. You wrote you were listening to everything that was going on despite the fact that you were recovering from major surgery. So I don't know. Let's start, I guess, with Jim Phillips. Some of this might be old news to you, everybody, but hey, let's get Corey's take on it because we love Corey. The neighborhood analogy. Listen, man, I was listening to it. I'm like, this is cool. I feel like we are under siege. He even said that we are under attack from like external forces. And it's like, yeah, man, we are under attack from the Big Ten and the SEC and all these just, we're going to, it means more conferences. And like, yeah, man, I don't want to make these guys employees. I don't want to pay everybody. I don't want college sports to happen like this. College sports is uniquely American. There's something to it that just this new age that we're trying to embark on is going to totally take away the spirit of it. And then everybody's like, yeah, man, cool. Too late, Jim Phillips. What are you going to do to fix it now? Which is fair, which I've come around to that, obviously. What was your takeaway, Corey?
Yeah, the analogy I literally just thought of, and people might roll their eyes thinking I've had a week to think of it, but I really haven't. Like it reminds me of like a dude at Blockbuster, like the CEO of Blockbuster in 2008, being like, "Look, all these new companies that want to send you your own videos in the mail, and maybe there'll be a way you can watch them on your TV and you don't have to go to the video store. Well, that's not what America's about. America's about driving into our parking lot, strolling through our aisles, seeing 200 copies of Ghost, seeing if one tape is behind it, so you can go rent it for a night, and if you don't rewind it, that's American. It's American to pay that fee. But that's what video rental is all about, everyone. And it's like, no, maybe instead of hearkening back to the good old days, which we're all aboard with that, Jim. Like, that's the thing. I agree with it. I think the people in that room at Blockbuster would have been like, yeah, man, how about we combat the here and now and not just harken back to the glory days? Like, you've got to have a plan to attack. And I'm not saying that he doesn't, but he didn't publicly say anything. He didn't assuage any fears. I think he kind of stoked fears as if, okay, and instead of this guy leading us into the new millennium and the new 15 years that we're all bound for, he's just complaining about the way the current landscape is. And it's like, well, I don't know if that's, and being very vague about anything else. The only thing he was specific about is how much the now sucks. But it's like, okay, well, we get that, but what are you doing about it? I think that was the biggest problem I had with it. It was more about lamenting what was wrong with college football and not about fixing the ACC to make it a viable power conference.
Well, he said, he's talking to ESPN pretty much every day, and everything's on the table.
What could that mean? What could that even mean? Like, and I get it, though. The thing is like he was really in a no-win situation.
Yeah.
Because say he does have Notre Dame and West Virginia locked up somehow. Not that West Virginia would be hard, but are Notre Dame and Oregon. Like, they're coming to the ACC. Notre Dame, Oregon, and Washington.
So I don't care about Notre Dame. Like, I do not care, but I get it. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
But obviously the people that ESPN cares about Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So and that means more than Aslan. We can all agree on that, and I love you, Aslan. But so maybe he has something on the back burner that's gonna pop here any minute. But he, obviously he wasn't. He probably doesn't, and he didn't announce it anyway. So I just thought that tact was a little odd. That's all. I mean, I agree with him. I just don't know if sitting there complaining about the way it is to your constituency is, and I consider the fans the constituents, not the media, but the fans that are listening to that speech, was really the best tact to take, because there weren't a lot of solutions. It was a lot of just kind of complaining and whining, which we've all done. Lord, I've been whining for years about the SEC. So that's hypocritical of me, but I'm not Jim Phillips. I'm not the commissioner of the ACC that's trying to calm nerves of, jumpy conference mates that might want to go, literally jump to another conference.
Well, I guess, and the difference between Jim Phillips and I is that, yes, I will lament all this, but no, I am not okay with living in different neighborhoods. Or I guess I am, but I don't want to live in the neighborhood outside the gated community.
You could have a gated community too, man.
Well,
it could be three different gated communities.
I want to live in the one that Nick Saban lives in. I want to live in the one that Kirby lives in. Shout out Kirby, 10 years, $112.5 million, or 112 whatever, 0.5.
It is crazy how these players getting money is just ruining the sport, though, right? Meanwhile, my man has just signed a $112 million contract to coach, quote unquote amateur athletes.
Yeah, so I don't want to fall out of favor with all this, but it seems like, I guess maybe the writing is on the wall with this. Now, I kind of hesitate to even bring this up, but there's somebody that's been really heavily involved in mentioning every sort of twist and turn of this. I don't know how right they've been on stuff, but it's somebody over on the Tribal Council of Warchant.com, and they said that it appears that Fox has kind of ceded the Pac-12 to ESPN in terms of negotiating the upcoming television rights deal for the Pac-12. So that kind of leaves the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC to sort of be ESPN's quote-unquote second-tier league. Meanwhile, everything's kind of going to go ahead with the Big Ten. Apparently maybe Notre Dame is close to that shoe dropping, and then obviously the SEC is going to have Oklahoma and Texas here in a few years. So I just don't know I don't even know what a second-tier league means, but that would be the other neighborhood probably that Jim Phillips was talking about. I don't want to be in a second-tier league, though. I don't want to be in a second-tier neighborhood, Corey. But what can I do? I'm just Aslan. Nobody cares about me.
Well, yeah, nobody listening to this wants to be in a second-tier neighborhood. Jim Phillips doesn't want it to be a second-tier neighborhood, but, and the thing is, this didn't happen under his watch. Like, none of this mess is his fault. I you don't want to be like the Iraqi defense minister. It's like nothing to see here. We're winning the war. The infidels will be dealt with, and don't believe and there's buildings exploding behind them. You don't want to be that guy and just whistle through the graveyard necessarily, but you also don't want to. You want to look like you're proactive and not just lamenting, and that was my biggest. That was a 30-minute just basically speech about what's wrong with college athletics and how the ACC kind of wants to be what's right about college athletics. It's like, all right, well, y'all did go take Miami when Miami was the biggest school in the country. Like literally, think about what Texas and Oklahoma and Georgia and Alabama and all those guys are now. Think about Miami in 2003. Is that when they agreed to come to the ACC? I think it was 2003.
I'll look it up.
I know their first year was 2005, but I feel like 2003, maybe 2004. Maybe 2004 was their first year. So anyway, think about what Miami was in 2000, 2001, 2002. I mean, that's one of the best runs any school's ever had. And that's who the ACC had just added. But it backfired. Miami's been garbage, essentially, for 20 years, has done nothing for the conference, ratings-wise or otherwise, really. And it didn't work out the way they wanted to. But, I don't even remember where I was. I had a train of thought there that's not going anywhere. But that
Miami agreed 2004, July 1st, along with Virginia Tech.
So when did they join? 2005?
Well, they joined on July 1st, 2004, so they probably were offered sometime in 2003, but I don't see a
or 2002 maybe. Who knows how that works? But that was a coup at the time, man. That was a big deal. Oh, that was my point. So we can't sit back and like the ACC is some innocent bystander. The ACC went and raided conferences too, and they got the biggest one available in 2004. Or 2002, whenever they agreed to get Miami. Miami was coming off like 3 straight essential national championship games, and they agreed to join the ACC. So the ACC's had its hand in this too. They just weren't any good at it. Yeah. They added Pitt and Boston College, and they had a horrible TV deal, made more horrible by a horrible network. And so that's what, that's what Jim Phillips took over. And, it was just, I rolled my eyes a little about him, the ACC being this bastion of integrity when it comes to student athletes. And it's like, all right, man, come on. Y'all almost were the ones that started this. Like the Big East was a thing. Miami and Virginia Tech, they were in the Big East. They were huge football powers, and you got them. And it just didn't work out.
All right, can't find out the exact date they started getting flirted with, but they joined.
I think it was at least 2 years before, probably. Year and a half, 2 years before, I would think.
Fair, probably, possibly. All right, so, and then again, this same poster on the board says that Stanford and Notre Dame were offered to the Big Ten. So we'll see how this all goes. And then just because ACC is relegated to a second tier doesn't necessarily mean that all the teams in the ACC are going to stay in the ACC, I'm sure North Carolina doesn't want to be considered a second-tier institution. Either does Virginia. I think we can find 8. We just need 8 of us. 8 of us. So North Carolina State, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Clemson, that's 5. Florida State, 6. Miami, 7. Louisville. Come on, Louisville. You don't want you want to win. You want to be first tier. You don't want to be second tier. Let's say get out of this GOR, dissolve the conference, and then we'll all go to greener pastures. So we'll wait for that.
Okay.
Day.
Well, hey, make it happen, Aslan. Make it happen.
Otherwise, what were your takeaways from ACC Kickoff, Corey, after pouring through all the video, all the clips, all the interviews, Jordan Travis, Fabian Lovett, Jamie Robinson, head football coach Mike Norvell? Really liked Norvell's interview. I think Tom and Ira and I talked about it. Like he was seated, and we were all seated around him. It was very kumbaya-ish, and I think he was kind of relaxed. He wasn't when you're on the podium, I think you feel a little bit of a responsibility to project and be a little bit more, boastful and colorful. He was just kind of a little bit more laid back, I feel like. Confident. That was the buzzword. But then I feel like we say they're confident every time we're at ACC Kickoff. But what did you feel like? What did you hear? What did your tuned ears hear when these guys spoke? I guess, confidence. It's hard to put a lot of stock into, media day interviews as far as what that means for the season. Because again, Willie Taggart, Cam Akers, they were all really, really confident in 2018. So much so that some of us were picking 9 or 10 wins.
And that did not happen. I don't know if you guys remember that season, but it did not happen. So, yeah, I don't put a lot of stock into maybe the words necessarily. I did think, and I wrote about it, Jordan Travis did seem to just handle himself better. Like, in last year, it was hard, right? Like, he'd only started 3 games in his college career. He was competing with Mackenzie Milton, who was also there too, right?
Yes, last year.
Yeah, so that was a crazy scenario that both quarterbacks were there. But now Jordan Travis handles himself like the starting quarterback. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean much for wins and losses, but I don't think it's nothing. That the guy that you hope is starting all 12 games and leading your offense and is the face of your program right now, believes in himself and has an air of confidence about him. You see fake confidence, and I'm not trying to kill the kid. I always thought James Blackman had fake confidence. He acted like the quarterback. He said the right things as a starting quarterback, but I just never believed it. He'd say, like, we're the best team in the country, and I'm like, man, that just devalues everything you've just said. Like, when you make comments like that, to me, it just devalues everything you just said, because we all know you're not the best team in the country. And if you truly think you're the best team in the country, it questions how much you know about football. So there's blind optimism, which I felt was the James Blackman kind of way he would handle himself. And look, man, hard worker, great kid, not a good quarterback, not at this level anyway. I'm not trying to take shots at the kid. And then there's Jordan Travis, who has this, he just seems to have this air of confidence about him, which comes from the way he played the last 2 months of the season, the fact that he's proven he can do it. He's played in a game in Death Valley. He's played in a game in the Swamp. He was in both games in the fourth quarter. He actually played well in the Swamp when he played. Did not play well at Death Valley, but not many people did against that defense. Won at North Carolina, has that game-winning touchdown against Miami under his belt, has those 5 wins under his belt. And he goes into this season not with anybody nipping at his heels either. This is his offense, and I just felt like he carried himself that way, which, again, I don't know what the war is for something like that, wins above replacement for a guy that doesn't carry himself like the starting quarterback and somebody that does, but I did get the sense that it's not fake. I think he truly believes in his ability as a quarterback. I don't think he did last year at this time.
Fair. I agree with most of that. Or at the least, it's just he's fed up with everything. He's like, hey, man, like, I'm here still. Y'all counted me out or whatever, but I'm here. I'm the starter. Deal with it. And I like what Ira did say, though. Kind of echoed a lot of your sentiments about the confidence, but the fact that he still thinks like that chip on the shoulder is still there because, yeah, last year was not a picnic for him. Man. It wasn't a cakewalk. He more or less kind of gets benched going into the Jacksonville State game. He hears Mackenzie Milton's name get cheered, and when he walks on the field, maybe a little bit of groans. So, yeah, this is all kind of playing into his psyche, and win against LSU.
Psyche's a big deal, though, right? Psyche
yeah.
is a big deal, especially at that position. I mean, at every position in sports. But the quarterback, if you don't believe in yourself, if you have any self-doubt at all, man, that's you're going to struggle. I mentioned it. I didn't mention it because I mentioned it to a friend of mine, but not this show because I wasn't on it. But did you watch the All-Star game, or what were you doing Tuesday night? I guess you were busy. Were y'all driving? Did you watch any of the All-Star game?
I did not. No, I did not.
So there was an inning where it was kind of cool. They had the pitcher mic'd up as he was pitching.
I saw that, yeah, the guy from Toronto. I saw that clip.
Yeah, they had him, and then they had the 2 guys from the Yankees, Nestor Cortez and the catcher Trevino. And Smoltz was talking to him as they were pitching. I think Smoltz even called a pitch.
He did.
But what Smoltz was commenting on, and what he commented to them during the inning, is like when the catcher would give a sign, or they were actually talking to each other because they both were mic'd, so the catcher would just hold his glove over his mouth. Or no, the pitcher would hold his glove over his mouth and just say, fastball, cutter inside. And the catcher would say, perfect, bring it. And then he'd throw it. And Smoltz was like, the fact you guys have so much belief in what you're doing. That's 90% of it. Having belief in being confident in what you're doing, not kind of just slopping up a slider over there, here goes nothing, but having absolute 100% confidence in your pitch and that you're going to execute your pitch. And you believe in each other. You believe in the call. You think it's the right call. You're not questioning what your catcher just called. You're going with it, and you're doing with 100% belief. That really does matter. And John Smoltz would know, man, he pitched in some pretty big games for a long time. And I know baseball's not football, but sports is sports. And if you believe in yourself, it helps so much more than when you don't. And Jordan Travis didn't believe in himself second quarter Notre Dame. Certainly when he came in the Jacksonville State game for that series. Maybe even when he played against Wake Forest. He didn't believe in himself. Probably didn't even believe in himself against Syracuse, honestly. He didn't play that well that game. It was a weird game plan. It was a bunch of wide receiver screens that went for 0 yards. But he did what he did do in that Syracuse game was win it. When it mattered, he made 2 long runs, got him in field goal range. They kicked the field goal. He won. And from that moment on, I think he proved a little something to himself. And he kept proving things to himself. And now I think he thinks he's a proven commodity. Now, he's not a championship commodity. He hasn't proven that. But he's proven that he can play. And again, I just think he carries himself like that, man. He still ends all his answers with yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, which is cool. I like that. It's a cool little verbal tick he has, which is awesome. But yeah, man, he opens up more. He's more. I even actually DM'd his brother, Devin. It's like, man, I can't believe how talkative your brother is now. He goes, yeah, I'm proud of him. He's actually showing you guys his personality a little bit because he has one. But it's taken a while to like show it to people, to show it to fans, maybe even to show it to his teammates. But now he says he'll get on to guys. And he says he won't do it like, Dan Fouts or Dan Marino. He won't scream at him in public, but he'll take him aside and ask what went wrong or why that happened and try to hold him accountable because that's his leadership style. And I just think all that's really important, man.
I don't disagree with anything you've said, Corey. I think 9 wins now. I think 9 wins.
Let's settle down.
Come on.
Let's just get to a bowl. Let's get to 7 and go from there, everyone.
Want to explain to me why Mario Cristobal's videos got more views than Jordan Travis on our YouTube channel? What's up with that? Come on, Florida State fans.
Maybe it was the headline. Maybe you did a better job with the headline.
Yeah, possibly.
The clutch shot, the biggest hit. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
You heard the man. It is time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week as we hang out with you folks on Monday. We are 34 days away from the 2022 FSU opener. With that said, Corey, the best 34 in program history, with all respect to Ernie Sims III, Ron Sellers, the best 34. Corey, what was the best game our boy ever did?
It's hard to pick. You were reading through them, too. Like, he had a bunch of monster games. His biggest game, though, and it's one of the biggest games any receiver's ever had in college football history. I don't know what the Demon Deacons were doing back in 1968. I don't know where they were recruiting, but they didn't recruit a lot of DBs because our man Ron Sellers in a 42-24 win had 14 catches for 260 yards and 5 touchdowns.
What? Say it again.
14 for 260 and 5 touchdowns. They won 42-24, so they let one other guy score a touchdown, but all the other ones were 34, which is really incredible.
My favorite Ernie Sims III moment was him tackling the kicker on every kickoff in Gainesville in the 2003 Rick Sassam game. But I want to give a shout-out again to our guy Marvin Bracy, who was part of the 4x100 relay team at the Worlds, and they got silver. So learn how to hand the baton off properly to our guy Marvin Bracy. Maybe win gold, guys. But
yeah, that was a bummer that it was going to be close anyway. Like U.S. and Canada were like neck and neck, and Canada had, I think, like one of the best 200 runners in the country taking the baton. Anyway, baton didn't get handed off great. I think it was the third leg's fault, according to Otto Bolden when he was commenting on it. But I'm not a track expert. But either way, man, our man went from being out of the sport for 3 years to being a two-time world silver medalist after starting the sport in 2020, restarting the sport in 2020.
We celebrate Ron Sellers and Marvin Bracy. You go celebrate some Zaxby's. It's indescribably good. We got more on Marvin Bracy. We actually spoke to him before he ran the relay. He got like a fresh haircut, and then he jumped on a Zoom with Corey and I, and you'll get to hear the interview. Corey wrote a really good write-up on him, and you heard him mention it there on the Zaxby's segment. Again, it's crazy, man. Guy just.
I'll be honest, Aslan. I didn't know he was running that night. Like he talked to us. Yeah. He talked to us on Friday afternoon. I guess it was Friday morning out there.
Dude, I didn't even know he was at Worlds. I mean, I didn't even know he was running in the final heat of the 100-meter dash. I didn't even know that. I thought it was done.
Yeah, in the 4x1. Yeah, no, and so he was still in Eugene, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm running in the relays." And I didn't realize that the semifinals were that night. So he talked to us that night, and they won their heat and had the fastest qualified time, and then finished second in the finals. But still, man, 2 silvers for a guy that was. It's a really interesting story. I hope you stick around and listen to it because he's really insightful about where he was. He talks about LaMarcus Joyner because he was a part of the 2012 football team as a redshirt, and then left Florida State right before the 2013 football season started. So we talked to him about that and about his journey, and then also the fact that he took 3 years off to try football again, and then came back and is now one of literally the 2 fastest men on the planet. It's just a really cool testament to who he is. And the story he has, the unique journey he took to get to where he is now.
It's very Rod Tidwell-esque, It's betting on yourself. It's got a happy ending. So shout out to Marvin. Right. So, but hey, again, Wednesday camp opens. I can't believe it. I mean, they're going to put on, not they're going to put on pads, but they're going to practice Wednesday, and then I don't know, by Saturday maybe they'll have pads on, or at least by next Monday when we have our Monday show, they'll be in pads. So, what are we looking for, Corey? You're going to be here, right? Please tell me you'll be here.
Yeah, come on, buddy.
Thank gosh. I don't know, man. I'm excited.
Just for one day, though. Just for the Wednesday, and then it's my mom's 80th birthday on Thursday, so I'm going back up there for that. Okay. But yeah, so I'll be up there Wednesday. I'll be there for the first day of practice. I would never miss it, Aslan. Come on.
You watching the trenches? You watching the quarterback play? You watching your boy Johnny Wilson? What are you excited to see on Wednesday? Or maybe what are you excited to discover and ask and hear on Tuesday when we get to speak with all the coaches?
I definitely am not watching the trenches without pads on. I'm sure some people will. Maybe you can take something out of the way they move in shorts, but I don't. I'll definitely just be watching probably the quarterbacks and receivers and DBs. It's kind of what I always watch. It's the easiest thing to determine who had a good rep and who didn't, especially when there are no pads on. That's and also not that we would comment on it necessarily, but who's walking around up there upright? Who's in green? Who's not out there? Who is out there? All that matters as we start camp. And then, our man Johnny Wilson, going to see what he looks like.
What do you think? Did you take anything away from the comments that Mike Norvell made about Winston Wright doing great, quote, well advanced in his rehabilitation? He and the trainers talking about the fact that he's going on his own unique path. He has a special mindset.
No. Okay. Again, that's something we'll get to watch here in the next month. Okay. I'd like to see where he is, if he's out there, how much he's able to do, how much we're able to comment on it, all that stuff. And if you want to really know the story, find me at CP and ask me. Find me at Corner Pocket. I'll ask you I'll tell you if Winston Wright's out there. That's just a joke, everyone. Come on. I can't give away state secrets. But yeah, I don't. It's so hard to gauge, and trust me, I'm very, very thankful and grateful how open these practices are. It's awesome. It's so good for us. It's so good for you guys. But I do not take. It's hard to put any stock into Norvell talking about injuries. That's the one thing he's so vague about that I just don't know what you can do with it. So I didn't take anything away from his comments. I'd like to see some stuff with my own eyes.
Okay, fair. Will it matter who's out there running first team day one?
No.
At nowhere. Offensive line doesn't even matter, you don't think?
I don't think so. No, okay. Not really. Not on shorts. I mean, you haven't even. I can promise you, the Dimitri Emanuel kid's not going to be running first team. He hasn't taken one snap at this school, so that wouldn't be a great sign to let him run with the ones anyway. But that doesn't mean by August 20th he's not with the ones. So no, I don't put a lot, especially again in shorts and in shells, especially just in shorts, which will probably what they'll be the first couple days, I would think. I won't put a lot of stock in who's running with the ones on either side of the ball.
Anybody that you might have not seen a lot from in spring that you hope you see out there, like participating, running around at the minimum on Wednesday, like Tatum Bethune probably, I would think.
Yeah, sure. In the freshmen too. I want to see what they look like, especially the guys up front. Again, I won't be able to. You can't glean much from practice without pads on for the offensive linemen. But I do like to see I would want to see what they look like. And then, I was thinking about that. Like, is Jamie Robinson an answer, or do we kind of know what he is? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't do a ton in the spring.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to see how much how engaged he is, because he's going to be very engaged, and what his presence actually on the field competing does to the temperament of the whole practice.
Okay. Last, I think I had two things for you, but I don't remember one of them. So last thing.
All right.
And it won't be Wednesday, and it's a really hard question to answer, so I kind of apologize for hanging you out cold like this, but I do it all the time, so, whatever. What will we see that lets us know they're better?
I mean,
like that we're like, man, they're going to beat good teams on this schedule, kind of good, Like, will we ever be able to tell that in a practice before these games start?
I think you can tell if somebody's turning into a special player, or if somebody's, if Jared Verse just looks unblockable, if Tatum Bethune looks like he's in the right hole every time, if Akeem Dent continues to pick off passes or be in the right spot and make plays, the things like that, I think, can tell you. But at the same token, like I always point out, you're doing it against your own team, so it's never all good. Like if Akeem Dent intercepts a pass, well, who threw it? Right. So that's not great. But I just think that, maybe the pass rush, but then even the pass rush, it's like, well, what's wrong with the tackles? So I don't know that you can see anything in practice.
What I would
Ask
say,
me again the third quarter in New Orleans.
What I would say, though, I think it obviously matters. There's variables involved here. I think, like, if Jared Verse is beating Robert Scott, I think that's good for Jared Verse. I think that's good for the Florida State defense. I don't think that means Robert Scott has regressed or taken a step back. I think if Derek McClendon is beating, maybe Bless Harris might not be a good example. If he's like, if Coop and Lovett are getting great pressure on the interior, I don't think that means that Dylan Gibbons is going to have a bad season. I think like that would portend well for the defense, maybe taking like another step to that top 25 level kind of. It depends on who they're.
Maybe those guys behind Coop and Lovett, if they get some runs against the first team offensive line, which we both think will be at least average, maybe decent. I think it's going to be pretty good. By Florida State standards, certainly. If those we know what Coop and Lovett are, they're tough to block when they're healthy and fresh. If those other guys come in and start winning some one-on-one battles, again, not these first couple days maybe, but as we get in on the camp, if you find so right now for sure you have two good defensive linemen. If by the middle of August you think you have 5 or 6, not just serviceable, but good, then that would be something that I would think that would translate into more wins. If I'm watching Malcolm Ray, Dennis Briggs, Jared Verse, McClendon, if I'm seeing those guys make these strides, maybe Patrick Payton, somebody like that, then you start to think, okay, this might be a legitimate defensive line, not just top-heavy with some top-end guys, but with depth too. That could withstand some injuries and that could keep Cooper and Lovett fresh for the fourth quarter. That'd be big, man.
One of my favorite things from talking to Norvell at ACC Kickoff, I probably mentioned either on the wrap-up or maybe the podcast last week, but maybe some of you folks don't listen to every single podcast. But now's the time of the year where you have to listen to every podcast. So start listening and downloading the show.
Amen.
But was when he mentioned the offensive line, the amount of bodies they have there now. And he said that, I think right now, he's like, I think we probably got 8 guys, but he's like, I think we'll be at the point where we got 10 or 11 guys that we can rely on. And he said, not to just play, but to help us win. Which, when we sit here and talk about depth, I think there's shades of depth. Like, is it a guy that can go in there in 3rd and 7 and know what to do? He's going to know what to do. Now, will he be able to actually execute it? It's another question. But when you say that you got 10 or 11 guys that you think can help you win, that's guys that can go in there and play 17 reps in the fourth quarter if a guy goes down with a cramp or something like that, and your offense doesn't really miss a beat. Which again, we've cited some of these games where they. The Georgia Tech game, when their offensive linemen had to leave in the last drive of the fourth quarter when they were marching down the field, you bring in a new guy, you get a false start, and then everything kind of goes sideways. So, you bring in a guy that can keep doing the job that, next man up, that sort of nonsense. Things are pretty good. So we'll see how it all looks Wednesday. But before that, we'll speak to Mike Norvell tomorrow on Tuesday. All the interviews will be up on our YouTube page. I don't know if we're going to have a podcast for you folks tomorrow. But if something important happens, we certainly will. But then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, shows, right, Corey? Shows on top of shows.
That's right. And I have a dermatology appointment later today. As everybody remembers, probably about a year ago, I got some skin cancer removed.
It's been a year? Man,
I think so. It's like I think if you look, I think September is when I had that huge gash on my face.
Okay.
So yeah, I've had that. Now the gallbladder, but I'm going back. I'm going to get more of a complete overhaul, like a complete look-see at my body, which, you know, how lucky are those doctors?
Seriously.
They get to see this sculpture.
They get paid for it to be able to do that. Look at that.
Can you believe it? Sometimes, yeah, when you're having fun, it doesn't feel, you don't work a day in your life. So I'm gonna get they're gonna look over everything, make sure everything's good there, and then who knows what's next with my body. But this is what happens when we break down. Aslan, I'm older than you, so all this, I feel like I'm the canary in the coal mine for our younger listeners. Like, I'm in decent shape. I don't have a ton of vices. I kept myself in pretty good shape over these years, and even that, it's never ending. There's always something. I'm going to get my eyes checked too because my eyesight's terrible. All that stuff's happening, folks. So I feel like I'm the guy. I'm somebody I'm your North Star almost. You younger listeners, I'll live through this. I'll keep you updated on all my health issues, and you know what to expect now.
Hey, what if we do a live show tomorrow? Why don't we do a live show Tuesday?
Oh,
Maybe.
All right.
I was going to say let's do it Wednesday. After the first practice?
No, because I gotta drive up for my mom's birthday. We can do one, but it would just have to be with someone else.
Okay.
Sorry, buddy.
Well, it's not Wake Up Warchant if it's not Corey and Aslan and Corey, you know?
Correct.
If you're listening to us on YouTube, that's it. That's a wrap on the show. The Marvin Bracy interview would have come on, but you've already probably listened to it because it's on the YouTube page, so we don't want to double dip or whatever. Stay connected. Jeff Cameron Show coming up 1 to 3 o'clock, Warchant TV. And we're getting you ready for camp over on warchant.com. So we'll catch up with you folks there. Have a great one.